members of the House back to Washington today. He shouldn't have let them go, in fact. They're not here. They are not here. John Boehner seems to care more about keeping his speakership than about keeping the nation on firm financial footing.
I say I'm a little frustrated because we've been asking the President and the Democrats to work with us on a bipartisan agreement for months, literally for months.
Well, you know, there are two events that are going to happen January 1. One is the Fiscal Cliff, which I still think is likely. It's likely we're going to go over. I think maybe a 60% chance. There could be a last-minute proposal if Obama is somewhat generous and not quite as arrogant and offers something that a small number of Republicans in the House could support. There's a scenario where you wouldn't go over the cliff. He proposes, say, a slight compromise on the level at which you get higher taxes, say $400,000, extension of unemployment, stops with that, essentially. And then if Boehner were to allow a free, open vote, then you could get 180 Democrats plus 30 Republicans. It could happen.
Voila.
I think that's the only scenario. It's a possible one.
Sounds so easy.
A lot of this stuff is in principle easy, but remember, Obama was never interested in solving the fiscal issue. He wanted to break the Republicans, and he did. There is now a civil war on the Republican side, which makes him sort of sovereign in Washington, which is a great political achievement. He's smart tactically. But the other event is going to be the debt ceiling, which is going to happen on January 1st. The delicious irony is that if you go over the cliff, the debt ceiling is easier to solve because it means you get a torrent of income for the government, a decrease in spending, and as a result, the debt ceiling is postponed. So it's got its little cherished curlicues in here.
On the subject of the debt ceiling,
ironists really enjoy, but aren't going to help the country one bit.
But there's one component of the intransigence which I think they can grasp, and it's this farm bill which expires at the end of this lame duck session. If it expires, we go back to a 1949 formula for calculating milk price supports. Back in 1949, most cows in this country were milked by hand. What it ostensibly means for you is that we could be looking at a gallon of milk costing $6 to $8. Citizens Against Government Waste says the Farm Bill is a cornucopia of outdated, wasteful, often silly programs, many of which should be allowed to die.
That's what, I do think if we went over the milk cliff, it would actually be a good idea. If people actually saw the milk price double, it would be a lot less abstract than watching a debt clock. They would finally understand that we have these insane laws that acquire barnacles over the decades. And the farm laws are the worst. They are all kinds of pressure, special interest, favors, payoffs, which make no economic sense. I'd like to wipe them all out and start all over again. And it would be good if the law expired and people would actually be awakened to how insane our system is and how much we really need tax reform. It wouldn't be an abstraction, it would be real.
That report is extremely detailed. It is very critical of both inadequacies in our security and in decisions and actions that were taken. Immediately, accountability has been brought to bear with regard to 4 individuals who are very senior.
The truth is, nobody's out. They just shifted chairs, and in fact, if you want to screw up big time, get a job at senior levels at the State Department, because apparently they don't let anybody go, even after this terrible terrorist attack.
Charles, it has been it's coming up on 2 weeks now since she had this bout of the flu, the dehydration, the resulting falling down and getting this concussion. One of our colleagues, Laura Ingraham, on Fox News Sunday last week, termed it the immaculate concussion.
Well, look, I just do think it's strange in this day and age where, John McCain had to give his entire medical history. Everybody in high position has to give every detail. I'm not interested in the details of what happened. But the fact that we haven't heard anything, we know as much about her concussion as we know about Hugo Chavez. And this is an open society. She is Secretary of State. She's disappeared. Let us know something about her condition. But apart from that, I think what's really astonishing here is how little interest the press has in the continuing story. And the continuing story is that everything that you hear about the Benghazi affair is not true. The latest thing was there are 4 people. Heads are going to roll, going to be responsible, accountable, and we learn a week later, as Steve indicates, who would even have followed up on this. You know, people have to be held accountable, and they're done, and they're gone, and they're not gone. Is there anything they have told us about this affair, a serious affair, 4 dead Americans, a sacked embassy, and the first assassination of an ambassador in 30 years? Is there anything that has turned out to be so? As of now, nothing. I think she has to go before the Congress. She hasn't answered a single question from the press or the Congress on this, and she is the one in charge, and she has said the buck stops with me. Well, then, if it does, answer a few questions.
This has been a Sunfish production.